All right. Your host, the Mystic Man. And this is sass. And I do have lots of sass. I am Mr. Sassy Pants. And this is an explicit show. Thanks for tuning in. If you're under the age of 18, it's cool, actually. According to Google. Yeah. For the app, I didn't know. I had no idea how the whole, explicit thing went. But I guess, according to the standards for Google Play, for the app for this podcast, 13 and up is fine. So I don't know how I feel about that. Because I'm pretty explicit. I'm very explicit. I like to be explicit in the sense that, as my natal astrology chart shows, with my Mercury, which is of communication and expressive outward intellect, having been in the 8th house, which is of karmic relationships to others, Scorpio, which is of Scorpio. I like to bring up the things that people don't want to talk about, and I like to do it at the dinner table. Specifically for effect, really, because the things that we don't want to talk about are the things that we need to talk about. And if there's no effect, then people will shrug a thing off, People will, we don't listen to a thing that's mumbled, right? Sometimes, well, that's why the nature of Scorpio, you have a lot of sarcasm, right? Or a lot of very powerful expression, The Scorpio nature is very, and I don't want to say melodramatic, no, because if anything, the Scorpio would be the more than any other sign, accurate in the expression of the deeper emotions, right? As that sign itself is of the birth and rebirth. After the Libra, which is of the relationship, you would have the copulence, the sex, baby making, right? Fuck the fucking, fornication under consent of king, if we were in the olden days. And then the baby, Before the sign of Scorpio was a scorpion, it was the sign of Phoenix. And it is the 8th house, the 8th sign, which is the infinity symbol. That said, that nature in me is very much like a thing. Because for me, it's also conjunct my natal Pluto. So that's two mental planets, mind you, in 8th house, Scorpio, Phoenix. A very area in the chart that has a lot of subconscious understanding, as in that it's not so much subconscious to that area. It's more just like conscious. But since everybody, since every other sign's perspective would see it through the lens of denial or veil, because it's subconscious to them, it would come off as insecurity, which is why Scorpios get blamed a lot. Scorpios get a lot of bad funk, and it's all projection. It sucks. It really sucks for Scorpios. And I want to say to all you Scorpios out there, I empathize. And I know it can be hard too, because a lot of times we end up having to become the thing that people are making us into, because they so enforce that you're a thing or you're this or that, basically to survive, you just got to become it. And there's a lot of Scorpios who have even been, hardcore enough to say no to that, to not become the uh, projected ideology of Scorpio, the stereotype idea, you know, like in modern days, we would call it, a black person becoming a nigga, right? The whole racist thing, which is the stereotype of it. Dude going out and going into gangs and stealing stuff, and it sucks because we do see that. I've seen it loads in California, loads. The teenage kids, they are learning their identity. And the thing is that when you have any of us, and we highly depend on our subconscious, well, when you tell a person a thing, they tend to believe it. Actually, when you tell a person a thing, the inner child always takes it in. So, uh, mind your words. It's hard because we all have our reactive nature, right? But if we practice it, we can gain a better control of our will. And that's what this episode is about. Will, the power, the fire, the creative spark, which is a very very Aries, which is the first sign. It's the wrath. And that wrath is super masculine. But I want to explain how it's not a thing of hate. You see, the thing is that the energy and the emotion itself is a truth, as in it's a universal truth. The energy of the wrath, not the hate. Hate is an illusion, and I'll get into that. But the wrath, well, we all have it when we're born. We're born as babies, and there's so much, awareness of everything that's coming into us, and we're witnessing, and it's so much that we have no choice but to scream back at it. Ah! We don't know what the feelings are, but the feeling is there, and the raw essence of the being of ourselves, that raw consciousness, it demands, because its existence, it demands that the area and the realm around it just chill the fuck out. Whatever the fuck is going on with the fucking light, chill the fuck out. Whatever the fuck is going on with this feeling I have in my stomach, I don't know, that shit better fucking chill the fuck out. Rah! And it's very, what's not super elemental about that to all of us? I would argue to consciousness itself, as we have the identity spark, the egoic spark. A thing supposedly, according to Rudolf Steiner, founded on Earth, the ego. According to him, the etheric self came from the moon, I believe it was. The astral self was the sun. The physical body supposedly came from Saturn, which I think I concur with, actually. I think that makes a lot of sense if you know Saturn in its astrological terms, and also in the ironic North Pole crown, which is shaped as a hexagon. I believe it was. Yeah. Really weird stuff, but also super... Well, if you look at everything in the term of consciousness being a foundation of reality and all reality upon that, then everything would be seen as a dream representative of another level of consciousness. and in all directions, of course, naturally, right? And it's how the brain works, through association. So that said, yeah, with the that image, right? Well, that's the Star of David. If we look at it, that's the really creation of the 3D itself. That would be a thing made on Saturn, of course, in the realm of that Saturn would be from, mind you, since we're of Earth and on Earth and living in this realm. Rudolf Steiner put it in the sense, the same thing that Edgar Cayce did, actually. They both talked about it in the same way, which is funny, really funny, because they were somewhat the same time frame. But Rudolf Steiner did not speak in English, and Edgar Cayce did not read in Dutch, I think, or German, I don't know. Whatever. But they both said a lot of the same stuff. A lot of the same stuff. Same with Madame Blavatsky, too. Same era. Aleister Crowley, same era. Jack Parsons. Different ages, but same era. Ish. Blavatsky and Rudolf Steiner a bit earlier. Really awesome time frame. Amazing things were going on. Horrible things, too. But awakening things. Lessons. A lot of it having to do with war. Now, right now, as I'm sure you've probably read about on any platform, because everything's turning spiritual as fuck these days. I mean, I know things have always been, of course, spiritual, but I mean, for some really awkward reason, it's become a business capitalistic front now, and tech, I saw it early on because of, well, it was just common sense. Like, people want to work from home, and what's the most easiest niche to get into that you could make money from? Things like tarot, astrology, right? And I figured, well, if I gotta make money in this system to change the system, then what better way to do it than through the spiritual niche, right? I'm spiritual. It all kind of made sense in a way that really looks weird and hypocritical, but it's not at all. It's just ironic, everything. And, well, yeah, sorry, I rambled there. But what I was trying to say was things are going into a more humbleness of the masculine nature and a more blossoming into the understanding of the feminine energy, into understanding its real true nature as being the one of power and protection. And it's a weird one to say or think about, right? But it's how the Egyptians put it. The woman god is always with her arm around the masculine sign, as she's the one protecting him. Because the masculine is the easiest one to become the fool, right? Of course. The masculine has an issue in faith, I want to say. Blind faith. Blind faith is definitely more of a power and courage and holiness that it is of the Holy Spirit, And, I mean, I'm not saying this stuff is inherent. It's inherent to us from our perspective. Yeah, because we're in the ego realm. But, to us here, the masculine energy has that effect. the characteristic of becoming the fool, the hypocrite. And it's really, well, we're getting out of it. We're awakening to ourselves and seeing our hypocrisies. And the best way to do that is confrontation. That's right. Confrontation. Communication. And I do mean people even going up and saying, hey, you know what? This, that, and that is this, that, and this. See here? And, showing it. Now, that's the thing, we're learning how to communicate in this way, because prior to our new awakenings, new awareness, new understandings, the main theme of things would go, we would be like, they're just going to do this, or they're just going to think this. And we would assume prior actually, trying, and we would, in our fears and in our projection of intent and, actions that maybe they wouldn't have done, we emotionally prime ourselves to believe that a person is something and that they would, do things a certain way. And, maybe they would or maybe they wouldn't, but the fact is that it's wrong to assume, and it's wrong to confine a person into the image that we perceive them of, and it becomes a prison for them, as we confine them to our ideology and our image of what we demand they be, right? Well, it shows. It shows in our words, in our choice of statements, in our tone, in our lack of faith in them. It shows, and it hurts. Of course, it does. And it's rude. It's very rude. It's like the whole, oh no, I know you. I know you. It's like, no. Like, do you know yourself even? Look at that, It's a thing about fearful projection. The demand to make somebody in the image of our minds evil. You see, that kind of thing can only really come from the inner reverberation of it, That's how it goes. That's how it always is. Blame comes from the shame of a thing. It's always hypocrisy. Always hypocrisy. The more angry and blameful we are in it, the more hypocritical we are. In the sense, and now this could be a thing that was from even like years ago in a childhood trauma that maybe the person even forgot, So don't go about like blaming even those who do that. And I believe we all do it, but I mean, like, I'm gonna not accuse you, the listener, because that, I don't want any blaming back. Let's just say this as a epistemological debate kind of thing. And not even a thesis, more like a poetic reform. A thing could be a thing, and it could be that. And it appears so. If you think the thing might be that, please say so and comment below. And if you think it might not, please say so too. If you can't comment below, please get the app. You can get it at lightworker.studio/app. I try to make it easy for everybody. And yeah, actually, that's so cool that this is an app. This is an app. I didn't build it. Spreaker built it for me. And you can get a podcast through them, and you can have an app just like this. If you pay, what did I pay? I think it was $99 a year. Yeah, yeah, and that's dope. That's awesome. It's lightweight, and you can put chapters throughout the episode too. If you've ever gone through, you'll notice that after I do an episode, I'll separate it into chapters and put links in it to reference to articles I might be referencing to, or videos, artists and music, and that such. So I think it's a really handy thing. Back in the day, there wasn't any of that, unless you were a huge station and, you had a whole bunch of people working for you to do all kinds of everything. Nowadays, wow, look how far tech has brought us. You're listening to a super philosophical, if that's a word, you know, uh, podcast, I guess, entirely. Yeah, it's pretty much this whole podcast is definitely like a philosophy thing, and from coming from a phone live, and that's dope. That's super dope. It's being routed through Spotify, YouTube, Deezer, iTunes, and a host of other podcasts too. Stations, music stations all over the place. Websites. I've got a bunch of websites, and I've embedded the player on them too. So listeners might be people just passing through one of the websites, and then all of a sudden the thing starts playing. Ain't that cool, right? It'd be live and everything. If you're one of those, if you're a listener and you're passing through one of the websites, please comment wherever you are. Just say, "Hey, I was there. I heard you say that live, and you know what? I will give you some reward. I don't even have anything handy, but yeah, no, you do that, and that's super awesome. I mean, just for the randomness of it. Yeah, I dig you. You were cool. Now, I think I've rambled a bit too deep into the episode without even playing any music. And I apologize. I usually like to start off with some tunes, so I'll get to doing that right now. I was inspired. I was really inspired. Somebody said something really deep, and I got goosebumps. And yeah, this is gonna be a good show. I might even go on for the 2 hours. I don't know, because I've got a lot to talk about on this subject. A lot, and it pretty much does a good weave through a lot of the wisdoms and articles that I've published, videos that I've published, a bit even through the documentary, uh, a couple songs I wrote, all kinds of everything. You know, I basically found that all that I had done has a backbone, and it's grounded as fuck. You're listening to SAS. Starseeds, Angels, Savant Syndrome. And all three of those are actually the same thing. That's not only ironic, that's doubly ironic. Or triply ironic. You were listening to me play a ukulele, which does not actually, the name of the thing does not sound like that. You don't say it like that. I'm just saying that like that, so that way you know what I'm talking about. But it's actually pronounced ukulele. Uku. I don't know how everybody gets things wrong. Like, it's so rude to, like, like, take a person's, like, culture and then totally just slaughter it. Like, Hawaii, it's not even Hawaii, it's Hawaii. Like the V sound. The. I don't know how they came over to Hawaii and was like, nah, let's just use the W. What in the fuck? But anywho, you're listening to me play an ukulele that I've had for most of my life. Most of it. And I used to go to the beach when I was a kid with this same one by myself all the time. And I used to play this song. Now, it's evolved through the years, of course, because I want to say that, like, I've been trying to really find it. But, yeah, I know, I don't know, the chords just kind of came to me one day on the beach, and I remember I was over by the second house we lived at, and there was a little dugout kind of area that I went to, right? It was a cool thing, because it was like a hill of sand, and then on the top there was like a dune kind of like pit, where like you could just go and chill. And I used to go up there and just bring my uke and just be there at the beach in this kind of like miniature volcano area. Like it was like a sand, volcano, and I'd be chilling up there playing the sunset. And I just found this one somehow, and it's been evolving to many different styles, but always always the same, if that makes any sense. I believe that this is the nature of our lives, really. Because you can find that if you look at your childhood videos, if you have them, and you see yourself as a kid, you'll find that you were always you. You were never not you. The essence of the you was there, whole, entirely. And in fact, we kind of lose it, don't we? we gain our conditionings, our conditions, our beliefs in the world around us. All of these dynamics that are really not real at all, but they're real because we impose it upon each other. Cruel things, very cruel things. Things that limit each other instead of encourage, inspire, nurture. And as you emotionally look within, or perhaps emotionally empathize with another, you find that in every essence, whether it's a expression of hurt and suffering that comes out as an attack, or whether the emotion is an expression of sincerity and hope, or whether it's an expression of projection. In the seeing of it, in the seeing of any of them, but to actually see it, right, for what it is, it always points exactly to the nature being of an innocent inner child, and how that innocent inner child has been impacted by the conditions and the conditioning that's been implemented to it, force fed, in a really gross regurgitative way that we do in society. Really gross, you know. It's like how a dog will eat its own vomit, but if you were to imagine that being a dog vomiting the vomit that it ate from somebody else, and then forcing a puppy to eat it. Yeah, pretty much like that. That's what it is. You know, it's what it is. If you look at it, that's just what it is, and it's really gross, and it's what we do. And I'm gonna do a little redesigning of that right now, vernacularly, by saying, actually, you know, what if it's not what we do? Yeah. What if it's what we did? Yeah, because I don't want to choose that anymore. Do you? No, right? So, cool. I guess it's what we did. And now that we understand that, we should tell the others, right? Yeah. They probably won't, they won't all want to hear, because a lot of them are still, doing it to other people. So we gotta, we'll think of ways to do it gently. Or we could just be ourselves, right? And just do it however we do. Because in essence, from a higher level perspective, well, we should just have faith that we're being guided. And, if we have that faith that we're being guided, then we can also have the faith that others are being guided too. And that's a hard one, right? Because emotionally, we reject a lot of things that face towards our denials. Emotionally, something comes at us and it claims this, or it seems to show us a something. And we know that the thing is false. And we express how it's false. And yet, if it's expressed in a hurtful, attackful way, then we have to humble ourselves, actually, in that, and realize, wait a second, maybe I'm not getting it then. Maybe the lesson isn't a surface level thing. Maybe it's not a three-dimensional thing. Like, we see the thing and we think that this is what it is. But what if there's a deeper thing than that that we're totally in denial of and missing ourselves. Well, then we gotta be humble, and we gotta have faith. That's a word right there, faith. I think if you've ever read George Orwell's 1984, then you know the term doublethink. Nowadays, it's cycled around as double speak, but actually that was not from the book. And yeah, that's something else. It's based off of doublethink though, and pretty much what it comes down to is doublethink was about dumbing down society. In the book 1984, George Orwell wrote about a future world, because this book was written in the 30s, I believe it was, and 1984 was the future, and it wasn't too far off either, because he wrote about TV screens that had cameras in them, and everybody was being watched by the government, and the nature of a lot of the government factions was to dumb down society so that way it could control them. So they would do so by creating words, connections of two words together to create a kind of hypocrisy, but a subtle one, to where basically the average citizen would not remember. Eventually through time, the average citizen would get so used to the meaning of it being used in the common day that they would forget that the actual nature of what's being expressed was really a wisdom, a thing that we used to know as a culture, a thing that meant something because of logical reasoning. And that might have been really vague to hear. I'm sorry if it was. Read the book. It's a good book. I read it when I was a kid, and it explains a lot. It does, for me and for the world, really. Because that book, it went on and became famous. It's the reason why the term Orwellian is a term that refers to that book and the natures of it. And it was very highly predictive. Luckily, it didn't come out exactly like that book. Thank God. And luckily, we do have a lot of freedoms. God bless America. God bless the earth. God bless every country, really. I don't know. But I feel inclined to say God bless America. Specifically because A, I'm here, and B, because we need it. Everybody does, sure. Yes. But I just don't want to see this country go to where it seems like it's going. We were one of the and I'm saying we, even though I'm technically a first generation on this continent. No, not continent. Sorry, because my mom's from Canada. So, but my dad's side is from Hawaii, and yeah. This is maybe I'm not totally American per se. I am by birth and by heart, but I would say that I'm more human than anything. I'm so much of a mutt that I can't really claim a identity to any single race. So the only way I could claim a racial identity really is either through my birthplace and where I was raised as a kid, or through the world and humanity. But America specifically, well, I empathize. it reminds me a lot of myself in my life. It's very much a thing about rebellion, a thing about possibility, accidents, and chosen directions, mistakes. And character to look at them. A lot of rebirth. You know, my grandma used to say, my grandma Heather from Canada, she used to say that, well, maybe she still does. She's still alive, mind you. She used to say that America used to be the country that went around and helped other countries. Now, I don't mean by, like, you know, helping as in, like, backing them up in war. I meant, she meant, helping them in going through with food, funds, helping people build stuff, helping people by giving them technologies, ways, possibilities. There's a reason why the iconic superhero Captain America exists as the character shows. You know, that comic was made in a time when those natures of the American spirit were very much in the people that were watching America and seeing what it was becoming. And they desired more righteous standing, more just. In Hawaii, the state phrase is "Uamau ke'ea o ka'aina I ka pono o Hawaii." It means the life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness. Or the life of, the land of Hawaii. But let's just say land, because this is in general. We're talking about a nature here. A human nature. And quite possibly, if we are to take things in a more Rudolf Steiner sense of possibility, nature itself, the life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness. Now we find this is very true. This is why things like wrath are important. For the rebellion. I don't mean rebellion against the government. I don't mean rebellion against any kind of systematic entity that we have. The thing that we're rebelling against are the conditionings that we've been brought up on to believe. Now, these conditionings work very much like a system of almost like a etheric 1984. Because they work by logical fallacies. Now, these fallacies have been interwoven all throughout. Fallacies like, you can't love another unless you love yourself. Well, actually, you inherently love yourself. That's just duh. And I can prove that through any action that you do. And I can explain how that is an act of love. In fact, your body could not physically exist without self-love. In the sense that the self-love literally is, actually, if you look at it, the love and trust and faith in brotherly love, in treating one's neighbor as thyself, and loving one's neighbor as thyself, as every single cell shares. That's self-love. If you truly love yourself, you love another. And you see the family in it. You see the the social interdependent natures of it. Because as you do not care for another, you are inherently putting yourself into a future where the suffering of that other affects you. Maybe it might be in a genetic sense towards maybe it wouldn't affect you in your life, but it'll affect your offspring. And is that not still you? Or maybe in a karmic sense, and you'll come back, and the very punch of it reaches you. What happens then? Do you keep it going? Rebel against it. The curse. Sometimes we start it ourselves. It's a thing to notice, because we wouldn't want to notice something like that. We wouldn't. Would we? We wouldn't want to be looking at anything that gives us a feeling of shame. Now, here's a logical fallacy here, too, because we have a lot of ideologies around positivity as a enforced kind of thing. You know, we're enforcing positivity and shunning anything that feels negative, which is really ridiculous. Really ridiculous. There's a reason why nature is as of nature, because it's natural. You know, you shouldn't try to be controlling over natural things like emotions. It always points to a really evil thing. You know, when we witness it, when we see it, or when we're victim of it, and there are victims, of course, and there are evil people, but I don't like to use the word evil as a opposite of good. I believe evil is really just stupidity. You know, yeah, it's myopic, really. You know, evil in all senses that I can perceive of it, at least, seems to be natures that would inherently come back to the self, you know, and punish the self. Really, really ridiculous stuff. And it really would just be counterproductive, counterintuitive, ridiculous. You know, it's basically the effort to punish the self for being punished and disagreeing with it initially. You know, I mean, if you were gonna disagree with it initially, which is what it is, because it's suffering, right? You know, then like you can't go out and then recreate it. But yet, that's what we do. That's what we do as humans, isn't it? You know, we recreate the sins of our fathers. It's just like Cain did. Many people don't realize it, but Cain and Adam, they did the same exact sin. They distrusted and lacked faith in God, and then accused God of the same thing. Very exact same thing. I've mentioned it in other episodes, though, and so this episode is not about that. But let's carry on. We're rebelling in this time frame. The enemy, quote unquote, is not truly an enemy, because it doesn't truly have a form, because it's a fallacy by nature. a logic, a logical fallacy, a big one. It's so big it's got tentacles, and these tentacles have fallacies of their own. It's grasped. It's grasped onto us as a culture, society, and species. And interwoven through our minds as we have and hold and regurgitate the beliefs of these fallacies and the memes of them. By the way, the meme, a meme, you should look up that word. Go to Wikipedia. Wikipedia that shit. That's a fucking trip. Meme has a deep ass meaning. And you gotta look that up. Like, I didn't even get to finish studying the whole meaning. There's college courses on it, and there have been since like the 80s and 90s. Like, it's a huge topic, and really amazingly esoteric in some senses. Yeah, yeah. Because here in a meme, you have the form as a creation of a form, and these memes, they're basically a thing that carry a message and an emotional expression, and they evolve, and they mutate, they change, or they die. They die up. They, in a lot of ways, are alive, and yet they're entirely mental. I mean, sure, yeah, yeah, we have the images for them. We have the words, quotes, and such. But a meme in its entity of itself is the same thing as a word. In its inherent self, it's a agreement, like a spell, if you will. It's an agreement amongst people of its meaning. And we can see in that this is really how the brain works in general, how the mind works. And since, we're going esoteric on it, let's just say consciousness, because this is only a reflective world of and from that degree, isn't it? Now, if there's disharmony here, perhaps it's reflective of us in our irresponsibility emotionally and socially. Here's another fallacy, by the way. A lot of times I hear people going about preaching a lot of the and maybe let's not call it wrong for them to do, mind you, because as I find it, actually, a lot of times, even these things, they have their meanings, But, at the same time, even the emotional triggering, let's call it, because it is, of anybody that would be instigated to fight it, even that, a lot of times, is right to do. The whole dance of it, in essence, is a thing that the more you try to deny it from happening, the more suffering gets caused to you. You can't stop it from other people doing it. You can comfortably teach if they're willing to learn, and that's good. But you cannot force upon the will of another. That's just wrong. You cannot control their will, but yet it's happening, isn't it? As this logical fallacy of such, with its grasp upon our ways of aiming towards being harmonic. Well, we're strangling here, and we're struggling, and we're really wrapped around this snake-like thing. we find that each of us in our lives becomes the Ophiuchus, the 13th sign, right? It's not really the 13th sign. Don't even get me started there. Okay, I use a 12th house system. Thank you. And I go by houses before signs even, because it's all about the prospective viewer first, right? That's what that's where it comes from. In any sense, yeah, the tentacles of this thing become the snake, become the thing wrapped around us that we are each fighting with. And I'm just using metaphorical senses. Now, don't get into me all like, oh, that woo woo crap. These are symbolic, and they are real in the ways of which they're ironic. And irony is the face of God in the sense, because everything is a reflective dream of consciousness. And I'm not saying dream as in illusion, and I think everybody should stop seeing or saying things as like, oh, this is all fake and this is all just illusion. Like, what is real? Everything is real, even illusion. It's very real to the person who suffers it, isn't it? Or perhaps gains bliss from it, isn't it? So the very words real versus illusion, they become a redundant thing. In fact, the only times when we can really use those words with meaningful effect is when we're talking about self-awareness, right? So we have to go elemental here. Elemental towards the very natures of our emotions. We have to be and act and follow through with the characterizations of these models, these structures that have been taught to us by the ancients. Many cultures, many different ways. And you find whatever works for you. I find that the universe tends to guide me to the specific mental tool or elemental tool that best suits me in the moment, if I am seeking and if I'm humble enough to perceive the message when seen. As Rudolf Steiner put it in Unknowing Higher Realms, or Worlds, I believe, it's a two-part rule. It's the two-part rule of universal truth. That the seeker seeks. Excuse me. The seeker seeks. The universe shall not deny the seeker. If the seeker is not yet ready, well, the universe shall not provide the answer. Now, this is a huge one. It's so true, and I a lot of times I like to follow through with saying, like, explaining the why, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to let it be mystery. Because it's funner that way, right? And it's more natural, and you won't go into any kind of cognitive dissonance, denial, and psychosis, which does happen to people. It's fucked. It sucks, and it's it happens. If you're not ready yet, maybe I shouldn't be like force feeding. But let's go back to the emotional sense, right? Because that's a thing that's raw and it's inherent to all of us, and I feel it's safe to talk about. Right? We should always, always, always respect emotions. Always respect emotions. Actually, if you look at it, research psychotic, right? As in the bullet points for it, and what defines the term. Because you'll find that a lot of the essences of it really revolve around a unemotional, zombie-like, robot-like kind of entity. No, let's not say entity. It's a person. We are all people here, right? But it's just that sometimes, like, because of society, because of things that we have not been taking responsibility for. Well, they need to be taken responsibility for by somebody. It don't matter if you cause the damn thing at this point, because it's going to hurt somebody and it's going to create more suffering. Take responsibility for it. As in, not like be the victim for it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying stand up and do your duty for society. If you can, if you have the strength, if you have the understanding, if you have the wisdom, and you think you can take care of it, whatever it is, handle it, fix it, please. Try to do so safely and don't get hurt. I find that a lot of the fallacies that have been going around are trying to aim towards things like separating people from being able to trust one another. Things like blaming, the practice of encouraging people to blame other people, judgmentally, and which is inherently creative of illusion and cycling of really just dramas that pretty much depend on the lack of faith in another. Faith goes a long way, and you don't, it's not just about faith in Jesus Christ or faith in Buddha or whatever God or thing or anything, whatever, any religion that you might accept as yours might say. There's also the faith in, your family, the faith in your lover, your wife or your husband, the faith in your parents, the faith in your brother and sister, the faith in a stranger. It all goes a long way. Because the difference between a person that has faith for another and who doesn't can be seen and felt by one another. We all have these inherent understandings of these emotions. We can all feel it. Sometimes we just are so stuck and lost in our denials that we forget. And that's a thing to forgive of one another. It's not okay. It's not okay. And yet we still have to forgive. Because the maturity of it is the understanding of it. And in blame, there's no understanding. Now, let's maybe not use the word blame, because you could blame a person and not be specifically like pissed about it. You're stating a thing that they did. That doesn't have to be spiteful, really, but it can be a thing that's responsible in nature. But so let's just say like spite, right? Let's use that word instead. So that in itself, the whole spiteness, right? Let's just do away with that. Try to practice doing away with that. And it can be done. And you do not have to deny your emotions in order to do it. In fact, this is what I'm trying to express, is that these raw emotions, these truer selves, expressions, the truer nature of these emotions, They can be a thing that heals. That's with the H. A thing that heals you or frees you. It can be a thing that heals others, gives others hope. Heal with the H. It can be a thing that harms people too if you do it with the dynamics of today's society and mental conditioning that generally has been recycled around. So try not to do that. Try to go towards the root and the emotional rawness, the emotional elemental aspect of it, the core feeling. Because that wrath, that that will, that is the nature of Aries, which is the first sign for a reason. I usually say it in the sense of the story of the houses. And I've said it time and time again. Let's do it again for any new listeners. We'll just say it briefly and swiftly, right? The zodiacs, the sign, the signs of the zodiac. It goes in a wheel. It's a thing of nature, perspective of evolution of consciousness, right? And let's start at the end, because duh. 12th house Pisces, which is the depths of the water, the deepest, darkest depth of the water as you're in the water and in the womb, and water breaks, and then there's light, and you have all of this feeling coming into you, all of this awareness of this world and emotions that are just so much that you scream. Rah! It probably sounds different than that, right? I don't remember. I was really young. I was super young. I think I was like 1 second old. And you were too. In astrology, this is when we term is the entry of the soul into the body, and this is a very controversial topic because of the whole, I don't like to usually say it, but this is how we term it in astrology. The mother's soul fuels and helps build the body of the baby while in the womb, and even though the mind is growing and working and the brain is functioning and it is of course alive, the soul and etheric sense of it is it's the mother's soul. That's why there's the psychic connection of mother and baby afterwards for many months or years or forever sometimes. But yeah, no, the breath coming in, that's the representative sense of the soul entry, point. That's why we use the time of birth in astrology, because as that moment is occurring, the reflection of the entire cosmos is imprinted. Or maybe you could say that the entire cosmos is an imprint of that moment. It's perspective, isn't it? As it would appear so to the life of the individual, and to the astrologer reading upon that life, it would appear the opposite direction. And unless he empathizes, and then he could gain the depth. Or he could also, too, have the faith and guidance of the universe and acceptance for the mystical and see it in a higher dimension. Well, let's not say see, because we think of seeing as in like with our eyes, but these senses don't have to be taken as seeing, relative so much. And as one of my mentors puts the term for pre-science, and well, not puts it like this, but expresses of it. He expresses of it in a sense where it's very much more fundamental and foundational than simple things like the senses of our 3D body. Seems to me, he says. I don't know. He's very cryptic. He's a Scorpio sun. Scorpio sun sign. And yeah, those are the best mentors, really. Because you can tell that they're very much in tune with nature and the universe, because the universe teaches the same way. Very much so. Very mystical. Right? And I'm trying to learn how to respect that and be of that. It's tough. I've got the very, very horrible masculine, old world masculine, logical mind that needs to be, everything needs to be super duper logicified. That's a word. And I'm trying to learn. But yes, no. So anyways, right. The Aries, right? The baby, the awareness. That's raw. That's totally... Well, you see, as a baby, you don't have a sense of memory yet. You're gaining your memory, but it's collective. It's consecutive collective. And you kind of need to have some patience, because it's going to take time. Funny thing is that the baby itself, in that experience through that time frame, would not experience time. Because there'd be no memory to really be able to define it by. So it's just raw. It's just raw experience, raw awareness, pure awareness, in the moment, living in the moment. Right? And it's funny, in the Bible, Jesus does say that what was it? Something like the angels of God, or the angels of babies and children are first to the throne of God in the kingdom of heaven. It's something like that. I'm sorry, I'm not one of those ministers that's super studied into the biblical scriptures of a thing. I'm more of a I'm more about the groundwork and experiencing things and understanding them through either empathizing with others or experiencing through overcoming things or sufferings. A lot of suffering in my life. There's been a lot of times where I've had the opportunity to discover deeper meanings and deeper awarenesses by facing a thing that I was suffering and painfully, and choosing love, or choosing forgiveness, or choosing faith, or choosing the thing that generally you do not want to do in the fear of a moment, or pride of a moment, or suffering of a moment. Choosing to do the thing that we all know that we should do in a moment like that. Like anything, really. I wish I could just have callers come in. I'd love that. Maybe I should get some Skype thing going on so that way we could do that. But yeah, no, I'd love to hear some experiences from people, emotional experiences. So this way I could work with you, and we could discover ways to where we could, show the miracle of that moment and how it's possible to be that, and it would be specifically be a thing that's really hard and a thing that generally people would not do. You would not do it, because the pride gets in the way, or the fears get in the way, or the demand of the reality as the thing being as we perceive it. You know, just we wouldn't want to let go of it, and I know that for freaking fact. Like, it's a emotion that I really, really, really have wisdom in. Yeah, the same way that a person doing a consecutive life sentence would know and have the wisdom that a crime is wrong and not to do it, in that same way, because I suffer, I have my own blockages that I'm trying to heal from. I'm trying to let go of my beliefs of reality, but it's hard. It's hard, just like it is for all of us in our own things. For me, since I grew up in a way that always had me changing myself or having to quickly adapt, and well, what it did for me was I wasn't able to really understand what having an identity meant. I mean, yeah, sure, I can have pride, ego, and but the identity of myself is so amorphous, so adaptable, so empathetic. Empathetic, if you did not hear that right. I did not say pathetic. No, empathetic. And so encompassing that what more can I say what can I say that I'm not really, when it comes to my being. I feel the emotions of anything in any direction that is possible, right? And the thing will happen, and I'll experience the emotions in every direction, and understand them for the most part. Not all of them. Not all of them, excuse me. Of course not. I'm not freaking all knowing. And maybe I shouldn't say all directions, but because guaranteed, there's many emotional directions even that I don't yet know. And I think that that's a huge thing that we should really give respect to. Actually. Because, I mean, even as the Aries really is that self-discovery moment, through the expression. The challenger. That's what Aries is called. And it would not have this perspective of its own impact to the world, really, up until it encompasses the fourth stage. But let's not skip too far ahead. So after the baby gets older and has experienced more grounding in its environment, it becomes Taurus. It has the memory, so it has the value. Taurus rules the second house. Second house is the house of value. As in, it understands value, sensual value. It understands that it likes mom's milk. Baby understands that it does not like the loud dog barking. I think Brian Gray says it a really good way. He's a professor at the Waldorf Rudolf Steiner College. The baby, the Taurus, sense of it is the understanding of itself and the value that it can touch and feel from the world around it. Very much a thing of space itself. I like to look at it as in the sense of that the Aries very much is the ruler of time, and that the Taurus is very much of space. But that really becomes the duality of it, right? The yin yang feature, as the sun looking out into the void would not know it's the sun until it looked within and saw the light. And the void looking within would not know that it is the void while looking within, because it would only see light. It would think that it was the light. But upon the two having self-understanding and having self-awareness and the wisdom of that, and then looking back and seeing the other, well, that in itself becomes the Aries, the challenger, right? And they would dance forever, maybe several forevers, maybe forever. Well, it would take a miracle to stop them from dancing. And that miracle could be an irony. As isn't every miracle an irony? Every miracle. Name something that could be claimed as a miracle. It's ironic. I mean, let's look at the Bible, for instance. The Bible, you have Jesus Christ walking on water during a storm. He woke up, by the way. He was asleep during the storm. And when everybody was tripping out, he was like, "What the fuck? Why'd you guys wake me up?" And he sees there's a storm going on, and he's going, "Look, motherfuckers, stop tripping." And he goes and he stands on the water. And he probably gave them the dumb look, like looking at them like they're dumb. As the whole sea calmed. That's ironic. Jesus Christ and, well, everybody, they're traveling through the desert. And, you're traveling through the desert, there's certain things that are kind of needed, and Jesus Christ goes and he turns the water into wine. It could have been the other way around. But it couldn't have, could it? Because then it wouldn't be a miracle so much as like nobody would really want, well, people would want that, yeah, but but it wouldn't be funny. It wouldn't be ironic. So it would have had to been water into wine if in the desert, and everybody's just an alcoholic, at least in that circle, I guess. I mean, it's it was the Piscean birth of the Piscean age, really. So what do you expect? Going on, moving along. A kid gets trapped under a car during a car crash. Is it the father who, in the stories that we hear, who lifts the car? No. It's the mother. Ironic. What's another miracle? Yeah. Here's a one I love. It's called Lost and Found. This is a thing that happens throughout history. It's inexplainable. I'm going to try to explain it in a way. It's not going to be super logical, though. But It'll be funny. So lost and found. What happens is generally a person is out and about and they lose something. And many years later, usually miles and miles away from where they lost it, it turns up again. Now, the way that it turns up is always ironic. And I'm going to have to loosely quote these stories. Generally, almost all of the stories I have of this topic, they come from a book, an old book. Yeah, it was called Unexplained Phenomena. And I can't remember the author, I'm sorry, but the cover has a picture of a UFO. Really blurry picture. And really good book. It's not a book and like, you know, it's not a book that's trying to impress or like warp anybody's minds or nothing like that. It's not like one of those books. It's nothing like, you know, a book that's highly suggestive and trying to say that a thing is this and this. No. This book is completely on data and on historical articles written, historical evidence stated, you know, and to mysterious and unexplained events. It's very much a book that's basically X-Files, you know. Well, you know, this guy, I think it was a English person. He's out fishing, and he drops his pocket knife. Small little foldable pocket knife. There was a picture of it actually in the book. And, you know, lost it. Fuck. Miles out at sea. It's gone. Dude, he's never gonna fucking see that shit again, dude. You know, you drop a pocket knife in the ocean, miles out at sea. That's gone, right? Well, it was. Until a few years later, he was out fishing. Different area, different, you know, miles away. Caught a fish. What did he do? He gutted it with a knife. What was in it? The pocket knife. Really crazy, right? You know, this stuff happens. It does. And it's really always ironic. You know, it's a story that's mind-blowing in the sense of its irony. Because he was out fishing when he lost it. And he went fishing to get it back. I was listening to a really great one on the New Testament, really, last night. And it mentioned how the parables that Jesus Christ told, and I had never noticed this before. I had never noticed this, but it's true if you look at it. That the parables that Jesus told were all about him. And I don't mean this in the sense of like he was just, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, he was trying to portray and explain things that, you know, to people that related to him, you know, in the instances. But that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what the guy was talking about in this video I was watching last night. No. The stories of them are all portraying the exact, well, maybe not exact, but, you know, the elementally exact thing. And they only differ in the specific ironic ways. Now, I'm not going to go into all that because that was a 1 hour long speech that the guy gave on it, you know, and not specifically on that part, but yeah, it was a long speech, you know. But basically, just to get to the point, is that everything that's of a miracle is an irony. And since it's possible to see everything as a miracle, and it is, isn't it? Well, it's also possible to see irony in anything. Now, sure, one could argue that doesn't have any substantial hold on reality or meaning to anybody's lives in a practical sense. I argue you're wrong, actually. It does have very much practical sense and can be used as a tool, a practical tool in your daily life. And in fact, I would argue it should be. And the lack of using it and incapability of seeing it is really a huge reason why we're stuck in this loop of regression. No, let's not even say regression. Digression. De-evolution, really. Downward spiral to hell. Yeah. We're not growing in the way that the universe grows because we're not doing the perspective of evolutions that we're supposed to. The way that the yin and yang stop spinning and dancing around forever is by realizing that they are the exact same thing, that they are not duality, and that there is no duality. See, the duality is an illusion. Now let me explain. What is of the nature of challenging something? Well, you have the point of perspective of the viewer, of the perspectival viewer. And the perspectival viewer witnesses a thing that it rejects, dejects, pushes away, does not accept into osmosis or oneness with itself as harmonic, right? It challenges. It says, no, fuck that thing. Which becomes really ironic, too, if the other thing on the opposite end is doing the same exact thing. Well, fuck that, even more. Right? This is why we have the bullfights, symbolizing the really stupid egoistic, blame against and fight against nature that we have. Because it's really counterproductive and really ironic in the sense of hypocrisy. It's ironic in the bad way, in the sense that it points to how blind we are. That these elemental things that we're worshipping in our repetitive just violence and cruelty of these animals is symbolic of the way we have not evolved in these really, really elementary things and elements of conscious awareness, because this is the first, steps that conscious awareness goes through. It's like it's like kindergarten. Our ourselves went through these things prior kindergarten. That's how we have Gemini. Gemini is the ability to have the communication and bond, the bridge between two worlds, as that's what Gemini is. It's a sign of two spheres, as it used to be. Instead, it was, nowadays we have the cut two spheres and the bridge in between. But yeah, it used to be two spheres and the bridge in between. And that's the symbolic thing. What it's representing is the natures of these two objects actually having a thing that's fundamentally already there, but it has to be built because of the separation that we've imposed upon it. You know, the initial blame and pointing outwards, that is the creation of separation. Just the same way that Adam was cast out of heaven by blaming God, because that's what he did, mind you. As Adam ate the apple, he felt ashamed. And as he felt ashamed, he covered himself. And in the covering of himself, one does not do that unless already assuming and demanding mentally that the judgment and blame is already there. So prior, even in the storyline of itself, it shows a psychological nature of projection. Because you wouldn't cover yourself in shame if there was no reason, if nothing was going to judge you in the viewing of you, right? The nakedness would have no shame. There would be no reason. There's no, what would the point be? There would be no point to cover yourself unless there was the idea of the judge. Now that's the thing, is that a lot of times in our immaturity, and I mean this in the sense of babies or kids, we cry over spilt milk. That's a saying for a reason. Because a lot of the times when we make a mistake, we assume that the judgment is there, that the blame is there. Doesn't mean it's there at all, right? And I'm sure a lot of parents would agree with me, as you've had kids. I don't have kids myself, but this is a thing this is something that culturally is always talked about. So I'm assuming that it's a thing that every parent goes through. I believe I did it when I was a kid, the whole crying over spilled milk thing. It's funny. It's funny because we know these 6 things. We understand the deepest wisdoms of them. We already do. We already know the wisdoms. We just forget. And we don't apply it. We don't apply it thinking how it could apply. But it does. The projection in its deepest, most simplest thing is a thing that really is filtered all throughout. So when we see it, we can take a hold of it. We have to see the thing, though. And that means beyond the label of the thing. We have to be able to see it through the emotional understanding. So screw the words, right? Fuck the words, fuck the labels, whatever language you speak. Just fuck it. Those did not always exist. Those words did not always exist. The emotions did. The emotional aspects did prior to this realm. And those are way more true of the true self. You don't even need the words to understand them at all. You don't. It's just handy in this realm to communicate. Let's take a moment. I think it would be a good idea if we feel right now. Just allow ourselves to feel. Anything, everything. Like the Aries. Just feel whatever comes. Feel all that comes. Let's take a break while we do that. right. You are listening to SAS. Your host Sean here. And actually, I wanted to let everybody know that we are getting another host. That's right. Oh, yeah. It is happening. And it's pretty exciting, actually. It's pretty cool. The opportunity came, and it's an opportunity for her too. And it all worked out. It all works out. And it's like, I'm really happy about it because the universe is finally, not finally, but there was times where things almost happened with others, but I guess maybe it just wasn't time yet, you know. But this is one of the first times, and this is the most harmonic time to where a business partnership has been equally beneficial, um, entirely inspirational on both ends. I believe it seems to me. I do not speak for her end, but she seems to be excited about it, and I am too. Because a lot of the things that we talk about and the ideals that we have and the reasons behind them may be different, and the aspects that we talk about and the ways that we go about it may be different, but the goal is the same, and the faith in one another is there, you know, which is really cool. It's really cool because that's really what it takes for any kind of partnership. It takes the faith, you know. It also takes the acceptance, in the sense that we both have to accept the other one is not gonna be the thing that, like, completes the other, right? You should never ever go into any partnership, relationship, friendship with that thought. That if you are, then what that means is that you are gonna be probably like super clingy or super demanding or super like pissed off when shit does not go in a way that totally benefits you in the way that you wanted it to. you know no, don't even. you know the acceptance is a thing about understanding that sometimes the allowance of the things that we do not understand really is the best for us. The allowance of the things that even we might disagree with, and she was the one bringing this up to me, actually, and I agree with her here. Is that it's the that there's going to be things that anybody, between any two people, you disagree with of the other, and I totally agree. I said to her how one of my favorite quotes is from Peter Joseph, and it says that to be proven wrong should be celebrated because it heightens one to a higher awareness, a higher level of awareness. In fact, that's the way that we gain a higher awareness, is through being humbled by either circumstance or another, you know, and we realize like, oh, actually the thing is like this. And so that's a beautiful thing, I think, when people can come together and allow themselves to be wrong and proven wrong by another. We drop the pride there, which is a huge thing when it comes to evil actions, actually. When evil actions, if you look at it, they're always this kind of thing where it's like a person is like super demanding that reality is the way that they perceive it and only that, and they won't listen to another person, and they won't they'll fight, argue. And I don't mean debate, that's different, right? Don't ever be afraid to debate, and don't even be afraid to argue, and fuck it, don't be afraid to fight. But my point is that the difference is that a person who's sincere wants to hear the other, wants to know if they're wrong, is interested to know if they're wrong, because they want to, they want to be right. And I don't mean in the sense of, be seen being right, as though that was the point. No, that's not the point. The point is they don't want to be wrong because they don't want to be going through with a thing that's a lie and believing it when it's a lie to the self, right? Because that's like a fool. We would be foolish in that, and we don't want to be fools, and we don't want to be foolish, right? It's like if I believed that Pepsi was sugar-free and had all healthy ingredients. And if I believed that, no, of course there's sugar-free Pepsi, yeah. I'm sorry, that's actually not so good of a way to put it. And not sweet, let's say that. And I never had it before. Bam. There we go. If I believed that, and I was going around saying that, right, well, that'd be foolish. Now, like, a lot of people would look at me weird and probably not even like saying anything back. And it would be really foolish if I got a sense of pride over it, right? Meanwhile, the whole thing is wrong the whole time. That'd be super foolish. That is the reason why you should want to find out if you're wrong. Don't ever have fucking pride so much in a thing, in a belief, that you won't listen to another person. That's what causes evil. That's what causes wars. Because when you look at it, the emotional expression of that triggers an argument is always coming from a place of desiring the other person to empathize and emotionally understand. The understanding happens on an emotional level. That's where it happens. It's how it happens. It's only from the rejection of listening, the rejection of allowing the person to emotionally express, that war really starts, that the interpersonal war really starts. And although it could be said to be a thing that entirely stems from the individual themselves, it's not necessarily. It doesn't necessarily have to, because a person can go and instigate that onto others, so it's dynamic. It's dynamic. It's easy to fall. It's easy for any of us to fall. The more leeway a person is given to fall, they will fall. Sadly, there's many ways and dynamics to where it creates that factor for another. The belief that a person will fall will even help them fall. It's subjugation. The lack of compassion. That could be said to be another form of believing that another person will fall. So when a person rises, God bless it and honor it. Always, 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 always honor it. Don't you dare get jealous. Don't you dare get jealous. Jealousy is an evil thing. And may we free ourselves of that emotion. Because it's an illusion itself. The emotion that's felt is not, because jealousy is not exactly an emotion of itself, right? When we're talking about jealousy, we're talking about a heartbreak that comes from the belief that one is not loved unconditionally. That's the actual emotion. Now, the human drama, physical world uh, thing of it, the drama of it, we call it jealousy. But it's a made-up construct. That's not fundamental. Now, the fundamental thing would be what I was explaining before, the heartbreak of believing that one does not have unconditional love. That's the root. It's important to realize and recognize that a lot of the things that we have that are quote unquote real, they're not really real. We made them up. We built entire no, let's not even say foundations, entire towers. There you go. We built entire towers of our reality, of our verbal reality, of our legal reality, of our relationship reality, of our family orientated reality. We built entire structures of all of those things on false ground, on faulty ground, on unstable ground, on illusions and lies, on words that really do not have any grounding in of themselves and are only existence in the illusion and misinterpretation of the emotion. Because we did not want to dig deeper. Look. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm a deep sea diver in the emotional sense of it. And I'm here to tell you that this entire city was built where the sea has been eating away at the foundations of the cliff. To uncover that it's hollow. And as it uncovers that it's hollow, we better evacuate. Sorry, I just had that moment of gloomy doom sense. But I realized an irony is that I do live in San Jose, Northern California, and we've been experiencing a sinking of everything when it comes to sea level, you know, of our ground, of our earth in California. I think it's about a foot a year or somewhat. Everything's been sinking down, and that kind of rang to the irony that I had said just now about the whole hollow sense, hollow ground underneath. Because the thing is that San Jose was in a 007 movie a long time ago. And in that movie, there was a vast underground cave system and cavern system. It's hollow. Come to think of it. Damn. Matter of fact, it's been a long episode. I'm already at an hour and a half, and I think that's been the longest episode I've ever done. So that's pretty cool. But, as a wrap up, let's just go over. There are root foundations of ourselves. And although a lot of people tend to think that everything is just subjective to the meanings that we apply on it because the meanings themselves were created by us, and I usually say it as that a lot of times, but I like to lead it through that they're not the foundations of consciousness itself, and consciousness is not dependent on even thought to exist. Consciousness is awareness. And thought does not have to exist in order for consciousness to. I know that for a fact from my experience from when I died and committed suicide back in 2006. Spent 7 eternities, I like to put it as, because that's what seems right to me, in the void. And I did not have any memories. I only had suffering as if you could put that as a memory, but I didn't know what it was from or where it was or what it was. I just felt it. And what it was, though, I do know now, of course. What it was I took my suffering with me, the emotional suffering that I was feeling. Because in order to cleanse the soul of the physical body, emotions and memories and the desires, one has to go through what the Greeks called kanaloka, which was the viewing of your life flash before your eyes after death. And they put it in a way to where they explained it as you see it in reverse time, from the moment of death to the moment of birth, taking about a week-long process through experiencing. I didn't go through that, and suicide don't go through that because we die in an unnatural way. So you have to, so we take the suffering things and the memories with us to a place where there's no body. Now, if you can imagine that, having the feeling like you want to breathe, but you have no lungs, and you have no idea what breathing is, or what lungs are, or what air would be. Just the feeling. And they want to eat, but not knowing what food could be, or what the mouth even is, and what you are. No idea of any of that. Just feeling. Searching forever, seeking forever, and finding nothing in every turn. Yeah, you gotta look within. That's the only way. And sometimes it takes us forever to find it. Took me forever. In any sense, I'm gonna skedaddle. It's been a good episode, and if you made it through this whole thing, I congratulate you. You were a champion. Please leave a comment. I'd love to know who you are. Whether you're one of my friends or whether you're a person from France, because a lot of the show's listeners are from France. Please, say hi. I'd love to hear from you. On whatever platform you're on, because I know this shows up on many. I'm sorry if you're listening on Google Podcasts, because I know they don't have a comment system worked out. Sadly. They should. Yeah, they should. You could always come to the website itself, kapuhuna.com. You can find it in the About on this show, or in the RSS feed. Yeah, say hi. Maybe if you want, I'd love, if you're down, I'd love to have you on the show. I know we can Skype and record the call, and I think I'm sure there's other ways too. Unfortunately, Spreaker itself, which is the host podcast service that I use, they don't have a way yet, but I've been talking to them about it, and they've been pretty cool in the development department with me, so we'll see what's up. Much love. Temet nosce. It's Latin for know thyself. Or it could be said as nosce tiepsum, which also is know thyself. But as I like to say, uamau ke'e o ka'aina ikapono, which is the life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness. Because once you know yourself, authenticity is natural. And actually, you already know yourself. So, hey, who's to say anything is inauthentic in essence? Because it's always a seeking towards that expression anyways, isn't it? Whether it's of ourselves or desire and question of it from others. So who's to judge anything at all? I find that the less I judge of anything at all, the more at peace I am. And isn't that heaven? Acceptance. To be in a realm of acceptance. To where there's nothing that's wrong and all is right. Well, as above, so below, as within, so without. I create that. And I accept you. And all of your ways. All of who you are. For now, mind you. Now, if I see you doing anything crazy on the street, I'm going to say something. Much love. Over now.
Napa know-how.
This October, it's no trick. A 5-quart jug of Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil is just $26.99. Plus, get a treat, a $10 Visa gift card. Because the only thing spookier than ghouls and ghosts is engine sludge. That's Mobil 1 5-quart jugs for $26.99 plus $10 back. Quality parts, helpful people. That's Napa know-how.
Napa know-how.
General states pricing. Sales prices do not include applicable state, local taxes, or recycling fees. Offer ends 10/31/19.